Martin, it's the President's Award.
Yeah, it is, and I suppose it's. I have treated it as an award for people who've done amazing things for Kilkenny, and business in Kilkenny and that may not be noticed or may not be rewarded for their achievements. I think Richard here is a prime example of that.
A very popular choice by all accounts by the noise and the audience, and everyone delighted for you, Richard.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I didn't really notice it. I was just thinking about walking up on stage and saying a few words, really. And but I was genuinely surprised when I got the email and the phone call from Martin, just asking me if I'd be around and able to accept that. It's a real honour for me. And as I said, I do these festivals for me, and I don't do them for anybody else. So,
that's very honest.
Yeah, well, it's true. And I think the point about it is I couldn't do it without the support that I get from a lot of people and also with the audience coming. But that's why I do it. And I do it for me. They're pursuits, but hopefully they have value to them. And I hopefully have a very high standard of expectation of myself as to what levels I want to reach with the festivals that I do. But there is a sense sometimes with people when they work in the arts that they should be entitled to support and money, but you really have to work and earn that. That's my belief anyway, and that's the way I've approached Kilkenny. I don't think Kilkenny can be pretty unforgiving. Like, it's culturally neutral, which I quite like in the sense that I've got some support, but then I've just got quite a lot of indifference as well. But an openness to saying, well, if you want to do this, we're not going to get in your way, and that actually really suited me, that approach. Slightly more complicated now, maybe.
That's very interesting. You have a Subtitle Festival coming up, and the major award is in honour of your mother, is that correct? That's
right, yeah. Her name was Angela. It's quite funny, actually, because she suffered from cancer. She died, quite quickly, but in the last 2 weeks before she died, I said, I'm going to name the awards after you. And she said, why have you called them Angela? And I said, well, I just thought it would be, just a nice thing maybe to call them Angela. And she looked at me straight in the eyes with her English plummy voice, and she said, I'm not fucking dead yet.
And perhaps this has answered the question already. Looking back over your life so far, besides your marvellous haircut, just like mine, who would you think inspired your life as such?
Well, I think you're a half. Are you a half?
I'm choice.
Okay, all right. Who's inspired my life in terms of?
Such, yeah, if that's a fair question.
Well, I said out in the main venue there, I think Brian Cody's unbelievably inspirational for me in terms of not taking anything for granted, really working hard and having to circle back on yourself every time and make improvements all the time. And that sense of entitlement, you've seen one high-profile case of that. I think that somebody losing the run of themselves and maybe compromising their business. For me, there's lots of different inspirations. I do believe that it's important to try. Money can get in the way of trying to do things. When I did the first Cat Laughs, the reason I decided to do it is I said, will anybody go out of business and suffer if I can't pay the bills? And I reckon nobody would. So I said, right, okay, it's the Kilkenny people, it's the New Park, it's those kind of bills, or the state. I can deal with that. I think sometimes people are obsessed now with finding their budgets. It gets in the way of inspiration. And for me, the best ideas come out of inspiration. They come out of antithesis. They come out of a sense of wanting to push against something that's already there. That's, for me, the inspiration, I suppose. And when I came down to Kilkenny, there was very little here at that time, with Barnstorm Theatre Company and then Bickerstaff. But at the time, there was not that much. And I found that great, It was a good opportunity for me. And then, of course, your parents and your friends, they inspire you too.
And talk about risk. What's that like for you?
Well, risk, I think, is in the area that I work in. Sometimes people overstate the risk involved. People really worry about whether they... Maybe it's just I'm lucky and I'm built in a certain way, but like with Kilkenomics or even with Subtitle, I didn't care. I was just going to do it. Like, I'm not going to have written on my grave, wish I'd made a few more quid. Like, I'm just not. I want to do things that I think have value and meaning and stuff like that. And so if I have an idea for a festival, I'm just going to do it. And I don't care. And we get in my way, that's fine, but I'm going to do it. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But you build on certain experiences. There's actually a philosopher called Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who was in Kilkenny at Kilkenomics, which is a big personal thrill for me. And he wrote a book called The Black Swan, and part of that is saying, as you get older, experience tells you to just kick into what you already know. And actually, it's important you keep open at those points in time, so that as you get older, then you give yourself opportunities to do things you mightn't otherwise do. And that, to me, has been a very inspirational idea. random events play a much bigger part in people's lives than they realise.
And life is, as you mentioned about your poor mother, life is incredibly short.
It is incredibly short, yeah, absolutely. And I want to do things, and I'm hoping that I can develop things here that will be going long after I'm gone.
Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you.